It's over and it's done.
You guys end up having it's waiting.
Wherever you want to sit, there's one there. Okay.
Good stuff to say. So I cornered him. I said, "That's strange." And they go, "Oh, that's great." Did they say that? Okay, that's what, yeah, that's what they're
Not doing this right.
What was he doing? He came to so I'm just going to show you what meeting we had.
You chose to sit there. No, there is no.
If you want to be good, just go over there. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. I felt pretty good. How about you? They called me and all my tests came back good. And I go Monday. They haven't said anything. Big thing, she wanted me to walk every day about 25 minutes. So I've been doing that. Good evening, Eric. What? My kid? Never. I tried. It's been the last couple of weeks he's matured. Maybe that's a little bit. So, but now the other one's it's sass to her. So. Yeah.
We had people that quit.
Is that the first line of the resume, so you don't look at the work history?
That's fine. To a point.
Yeah, you can find the right fit.
Yeah. The end of my freshman year in college, I worked in Firestone. My brother was a plant manager, and I was a janitor. I was on 4 days the whole summer. 4 days, well, hey, double time on Saturday, triple time on Sunday, triple time on holiday. And I said, man, so I came back to school, wrote one check, and had no money. I paid for my sophomore year. But on 4 days, and then I got it. And then my shift would change. I would be days, some night shift. Well, that was the good thing about it. That was the good thing about it. But boy, when it got 2 months, I was thinking, no, I can't wait. And Lance was, we were doing something. We got an education.
All right, I have 6 o'clock. I'm going to call this meeting to order. Jessica, roll call.
Blint.
Here.
Williamson.
Here.
Hurd.
Here.
Overberg.
Here.
Schrader. Maher.
Here.
Hampton.
Here.
Any changes to the agenda?
No changes to the agenda.
Motion to approve agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Blint.
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Hurd.
Yes.
Overberg.
Yes.
Schrader. Maher.
Yes.
Hampton.
Yes.
One note I want to make before we get to the superintendent report is I think we're out of the threat of severe weather, but in the case that there was some possibility, our storm shelters are these 2 rooms here. We can go to either room, or the bathrooms are also some storm shelters if we should need to take some shelter. All right.
Okay. Just a few items in the superintendent's report that I wanted to update you on. We have had kindergarten roundup, both at Harlan Elementary, today at Salem Elementary. We had 78 students at roundup at Harlan. That was a week ago today. And they had 6 students at Salem Elementary today. So as we are planning for next year, planning for sections, we are considering how to best move forward with that and with kindergarten sections, and considering 6 students at Salem Elementary and how we move forward with that. So there'll be more to come on that, but I wanted to give you that update on Kindergarten Roundup. The central office remodel, we have, there was I thought there might be a slight chance that we would get a second quote by today. We did not receive it. The problem that we're having is the construction is not just wood 2x4s, drywall. They've got to put walls on. They've got to run walls up to the window frames on the north side of that building. So there is some metal work that needs done, and there is also some insulating up above that's going to need done. So it has not been as easy as just calling a regular contractor to get that done. We do have a quote from Ted Wiley at Gene C. Wiley and Sons, which you have in front of you there, for all of that work at a total cost of just over $75,000. So I'm not asking, this is not an action item, not asking for approval tonight, but I did want to maybe at least have some discussion about when that second, if we can get that second quote, because we do need to get moving on this. We need to expedite this so we can get in by August 1. And I don't know if we call a special meeting, a brief special meeting, just when we get the quote to approve it. If I could get 4 of you who are available to do that, we could go about it that way. We're still 2 weeks from our next school board meeting, so.
I would say we call a special meeting to continue the process, get it going.
Okay.
I would agree.
Okay. Very good.
Who's the second bid you're waiting from? Do you have somebody?
Yeah, so Spectre Construction, Chad has reached out to, so waiting to do the walkthrough and then to receive the quote. So
Wiley's didn't have any problems with the timeline. Currently, I assume, did they say?
2 weeks ago. Well, I probably got this 10 days ago or so. So, and they turned around their quote pretty quickly, and he didn't have an issue with the timeline at that point. But we get deeper and deeper.
What was he thinking for a start time when he gave it to you?
I don't know for certain when they were going to start. So.
Well, we still have wisdom question though. And currently, would we relocate them if they started sooner?
Probably what we would do is they could move to the west, either to the west or to the east, and they could get started with some of the things that they need to do. So I'll keep you informed about that. Also, I want to apologize as well. I know it's really getting warm in here. I'm not sure why the air has kicked off, but I do have I texted Chad to see if he could get that going again. So. And then the last thing in the superintendent's report, I just wanted to we had what you're looking at there is the backstop for the baseball field at Maple Leaf. And one of the issues that we've had over the years, obviously, is foul balls that go over the backstop. And then, of course, there's a residence here behind these trees on Palm and Maple Leaf Drive. Baseballs regularly go over the backstop. We've had them obviously they go over the backstop into the yard. We've had them go over the backstop onto Palm and hit a car, hit cars, and so I received a phone call about, hey, is there anything that we could do about that? Is there anything that could be done to perhaps extend the fencing, angle the fencing a little bit to try and take some of the trajectory off of those foul balls? And so I just wanted you to know that we have Jared Pierce from Pierce Fencing. He's going to come and take a look. He said he said what they do nowadays is just they do netting. They don't put up addition. He said most of the time the backstops they're doing are all netting. They're not doing the chain link anymore. So he was going to come take a look and see what it would cost to retrofit that with some netting to take it up another 6, 8, 10 feet perhaps.
So Pierce does the netting as well, not just
As well as fencing, yeah.
That's straight up,
I think you can, so that's a great question. We actually had a discussion about that because you used to see backstops that had the angle on them, and the problem it created was for balls that are in play, it goes up, hits the fence, turn around, and can the umpires ascertain whether it hit the fence and is now a dead ball? So they really don't do that angle anymore. They just take them up a bit higher. He said they have done them with just a slight angle to try and take that that final trajectory off the ball that takes it over the fence. So we'll see what they come up with. But again, I'll keep you informed. We won't do anything with that, obviously, without having that discussion with the board. So.
Is the softball field of similar concern? I know there's residents, well, I guess home plate faces
Yeah,
parking lot.
yeah.
So, okay.
Just parking lot is
The Burlington girls team hits the most home runs over
Yeah,
there.
yes, they do hit a lot. Yeah. So that was all I had as a superintendent's report.
The only other item outside of new business was just to make sure that we can come to consensus to move the finance committee meeting to Friday, May 8th instead of this Friday, May 1st. So then financials could be ready. Financials won't be ready on this Friday as the month will just be closing. And then it puts us on our normal schedule where finance and all of our committee meetings are in the same week. So unless somebody has a problem, we'll move the finance committee to May 8th at 2 o'clock.
No problem here. I'm available.
No,
Okay. Sounds good. All right, so on our new business, we will move on to new business. This is our chance for board discussion on consideration to close Salem Elementary. We've had a public hearing, we've had talks in committee meetings, we've heard from a lot, we've had a lot of emails. I'm sure we've had other outside conversations as well. So we as a board obviously have not discussed. We've had a little bit at the last, I think, site and policy, there was a little bit of back and forth, but ourselves, we have not discussed. This is our opportunity to discuss the options that are out there, the pros and cons, and where we're at.
Just to get the discussion started, which is your discussion, unless you have questions for me. Generally I would provide some data on whatever the topic is, and I have included that in your packet. I think of all the data that we have looked at and all of the, whether it's expenditures or previous year expenditures, the data that is most concerning to me as superintendent of the district is this data right here. This is the projected enrollment data from the Department of Education. So the projected enrollment data here in 25-26, and we've looked at this number of times, but the projected enrollment data here in 25-26 was 1,702. Our certified, and this is certified enrollment, our certified enrollment in 25-26 was 1,705. And so the concerning thing to me as a fiduciary responsibility is the projected enrollment decreases here from 25-26 to 26-27 down to 1,650. 27, 28, 1,626, 28, 29, 1,567, and then the projected number in 29, 30 is 1,523. So if you take that data from starting from here, 1,705 minus 1,523 in a 4-year period, that's a reduction of 1,082 students. And I shared with you at $8,200 per student, that's about it's a little over $1.4 million in that time. And so I did just the same thing, just simply, what if you did it at 35 students per year? Because that's what the finance projection models we were using, a reduction of 35 students per year. And at 35 students per year, you get down to 1,565, which is a total of 140 students over 4 years. And 140 students over 4 years, again, do the math with 8,200 kids. And my concern is that yes, these are projections, but even if this data is 50% right, if it's half right, you're talking about 90 kids over a 4-year period, which is over it's close to $750,000. So that's my concern again, as it relates to my fiduciary responsibility as a leader of the district. So I don't. That's the data. That's the data, and that's the data that concerns me the most moving forward.
Would you mind going over the meeting you guys had? We had a request for a few of us to have a meeting. Just any notes on that of note?
Friday's meeting?
Friday, yeah.
I did not take any notes.
I can go through that first. So we met with a couple of community members Friday at evening. They were bringing up some potential alternate ideas for cost savings. Some of those ideas included looking at, in the past, the district operated with 2 elementary principals. Currently we have 3. So going back to a 2-principal model. Second idea related to reducing instructional coaches. Currently the district went from 6 this year, we're going to 5 next year. So around further reduction there. Looking at the idea of teacher flex. So when you have a particularly large or small class size, the teachers or 1 teacher per grade level could essentially travel with that grade level. So we're not keeping 6 sections of every grade if only 3 of them justify it. And then they talked about some examples of, I can't remember the name of the district, another district in Iowa where they're looking at grant writing, having students writing grants as potential increase in revenue for the district.
And the final cost-saving measure that was part of this proposal was the complete elimination of Wisdom Quest.
And that grant writing could be public or private.
Public or private.
I just kind of wanted a recap of it since I wasn't able to be there. In regards to these kindergarten roundup numbers, John, how's that track with years past of what we've seen in roundup versus what actually came in?
It's lower. It's lower on I would say recently, we'd like to see between 90 and 100 kids. And then in combination, because you always pick up some kids during registration. So you always take, it just happens. You always, my experience is you pick up 10, 12, 15 kids in registration. So that would put you at, in a year that you had 100 kids coming into kindergarten, if you pick up another 10 and then combine it with Salem, you've got a class size of, about 120 or so, yeah. So this is small. It's a small class.
Question I would like to ask is just on the process of coming up with the phase 1 and phase 2 proposals. Was there target reductions by building that were given? Was it just each admin go back and look, do you have any opportunity? And how many different ideas were investigated from that process?
We met originally and came up with our priorities, how our priorities should filter through, or how a suggestion should filter through the priorities, and then we began to talk about, okay, what do you have? What do you have per building? What do you have by building? And as you can imagine, in a large group setting, things got quiet very quickly. And so my approach then was to meet with each building principal. I met multiple times with each building principal to discuss basically the enrollment numbers, Craig, where we are at with enrollment numbers, how many sections are we going to need, what can we do with core courses? Is there a way to reduce the number of teachers we have teaching core? What are our special education numbers? What are our rosters telling us? How much FTE do we need in special education? I had those conversations with all of the principals multiple times. It seemed to fit the process better to meet with them individually because it wasn't going to happen in a large group.
Give me an understanding of the $250,000 we spent for Southeastern.
So you're talking about concurrent enrollment? Okay, concurrent enrollment is part of legislation that's called Senior Year Plus. Senior Year Plus is required. It has to be offered by all districts in the state of Iowa. It's available to grades 9 through 12. There are really very few limits that you can put on requests to take concurrent enrollment courses where you get both high school credit and college credit for that. So the Department of Education sets the weighting amount that we get for each student in each class. It's dependent upon the class. Like if you have a class, if you're taking a class, let's say, I don't know, let's say you were taking a chemistry course and it has a lab and other elements to that course, you would get heavier weighting for that course as opposed to a psychology course. But we don't set that weighting. The Department of Education sets the weighting, and SCC sets the cost. The consortium sets the cost of the course. We don't have any input on the weighting for the student or the cost of the course.
What about the courses they take?
We do have input on that. The board can have input on that. The board can limit the number of, not the number, but the board can take a look at the consortium handbook and then decide what courses are going to be offered.
If I remember right, I think it was the legislature that set this in existence in 2008. And the purpose of it is to help students get through college, maybe less than 4 years. And through my experience at Iowa Wesleyan, a number of my softball players were done after 3 years because of courses they had taken at a community college or a 4-year school.
Yeah, well, we've looked into this and the actual intent of Senior Year Plus. Can you comment on that, Dr. Butler? Because we've spent some time with this.
The actual intent is to help those students who typically wouldn't go to college, would be able to access the college, give them a head start. They are starting those college credits while they're still in high school, and get a head start in college. So students that are produced, students that maybe historically have tried college, get a head start.
In recent, I think the most recent changes that we've made as a district, the course offerings used to be pretty much wide open. There were some, as we have progressed, some restrictions put on that if the class is offered in person at the high school, that would be required. You can't take, if Spanish 1 is offered here at the high school and Spanish 1 is offered online, you would have to take Spanish 1 here. You couldn't take that class online. If you wanted to take the college credit sociology course, you would need to take the sociology course that was first offered at the high school before you could take the college. So there have been some guidelines put in place so that it's not wide open and we're not replacing, you can't choose just to take your whole schedule online. Along with that, the students every fall or every semester, in order to sign up for that, you have to sign a waiver. There's a meeting that the guidance counselors go through. Parents are supposed to, unless you're of age, parents have to sign off on that. That goes through the guidelines of how to be successful in a college concurrent class and things like that. So that's also goes along with those kids taking those classes.
Is it a pass-fail?
No,
If they fail,
Yeah, it's not a pass-fail, it is a letter grade. It affects their GPA as well. There is legislation currently that I believe is going to pass that says, the legislation says if a student takes a concurrent enrollment class and fails the course, then the district can decide if they have to pay that tuition money back. So I believe that's going to pass. We do know that the legislation that says if the class is offered in person, you have to take it in person. You can't take it online. That did pass. So other than that, really, again, Dr. Butler, there are very few limits on Senior Year Plus.
That's absolutely correct.
What is the cost of it between the additional weighting and then the cost to SEC? I assume it's a net negative to us.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared for that, Josh, but I can get that for you. It's not my experience is it hasn't been a break even. You know, it doesn't cost like the full cost of a course, but it's not a break even for us. So
on the cost breakdown by building, it's $288,000. That's what we pay to them, and then we get a portion of that back from the state.
Correct. We get weighting, yes.
Do we have an estimate of how many kids are taking advantage of it?
we do.
I'm just trying to find it.
We do.
Okay.
On the website in 2023, I think it was upwards of 30-some%. The last one that I saw on the website varied from 15% all the way up to 50 or 60% in some school districts. It had some data. It wasn't recent data, but the one data spreadsheet that I saw was from 22, 23, I believe.
Marcus, the reason for bringing this up, just to be a little more cognizant of how much we're spending on it, to see if we can shrink that
yeah,
amount. Or
yeah, I'd like to see the course book to what they can take, if it's relevant to everyday courses in the high school or for college?
So, well, they are SCC courses, right? And we do have students almost every year graduate with, a lot of years graduate with their AA and their diploma. So during graduation, they get their SCC cord as well. We have had students that, and that's really based on the student, right? And how motivated they are. And if students do take summer classes, that's at their own cost. But during those classes they're enrolled in the school year, we do pay for that. Also, I would say that some of those college credits are dual, like for the CTE with woods and welding, there is a portion, blueprint reading is a part of some of those classes that within the high school, they get their blueprint reading certification through SCC, but within our program as well. So we have some dual, and are those called dual?
Those are, technically they're concurrent enrollment as well. So you're concurrently enrolled in the college and in a high school course.
We have.
These are just community college courses. They're not the 4-year courses, the AP courses that kids can take also, or are they?
These are not AP or IB courses. These are SCC. I guess you would say undergraduate, associate level courses.
156 students in grades 9 through 12 right now are undertaking courses.
How many?
156.
156 are taking courses currently. That's a pretty good percentage of our
Yeah.
high school students.
68 of those are seniors in the Western.
Mark, when you bring it up, are you referring to like really looking at the handbook, and I'm just gonna throw classes out there, like puppetry, and not saying you're going to we're not gonna offer puppetry, you're saying, like what Angie's already said is if chemistry's in there, but we offer chemistry, you're not gonna take chemistry because we offer it.
Right. Are the courses in there they're taking relevant to the future? Like you just said, puppetry or anything like that?
Well,
I don't know if that's for us to decide though, right? Or
you'd have to, we have not limited, essentially haven't limited that course handbook or the course offering book. We've had discussion about it, and we do come back to that same thing. I'm not saying that we can't make decisions on what, or that we shouldn't make decisions on what goes into that handbook. But I can't make a decision on what's important to one kid over another kid.
This allows it allows our students to succeed after college. In some cases, they get enough that maybe they're only a few courses away from their AA, and then they can afford to finish that, and then that goes towards a job. Or maybe they got enough to know that this will help me in the workforce, but I'm not going to go any further. It gives the high school students options so they're successful when they leave us. I think public speaking is a course that we currently don't offer at the high school, and a lot of students take public speaking. It's a prerequisite for it's a requirement for most college programs is public speaking. A lot of students take public speaking as a first opportunity, and obviously public speaking helps for everyone.
Taking public speaking is an online class.
The requirements around public speaking, from a parent perspective, it can be kind of painful, but the requirements are to speak in public in front of people and record it and submit it to the.
Okay.
So you can't record it to your dolls lined up. You have to, in the videos in which you record, you have to also show your audience, and there's a number of audience participants that you are required. I take it your children have not done that yet.
No.
Would you like to audit it, Mark? Or Kevin? So going back, I think I'll as we've been looking at budget reductions and then the figures that we've given, and we have to continue. I want to make sure that whatever we continue to decide, we have to, it's our responsibility to make some decisions as soon as we can to continue to move the district forward. We have a lot of people in limbo, and $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 of identified cost savings isn't going to get us to where we need it. So all of these ideas continue to be important, and we have to look at all of them because we don't want to lose more teachers than we need to. I'm cognizant of that, and I think all of these ideas, I've heard the comments on let's wait until we have a new superintendent. That new superintendent has to find budget reductions as well. So it's not like we are saving her from making decisions moving forward. And we're hopeful that she can come up with some creative ideas, some funding, grants, any other funding sources that we might not know of or that we can creatively come up with, or solutions that she's seen throughout her career or heard of in her education position. So she still has her work cut out for us. We want her to hit the ground running, and she has to identify more budget reductions in order for the district to grow and be successful, which is what we hired her for, to continue to move us forward. And when we identify whatever steps we can take, there's still more work to be done. So it's not done. We're not solving the entire district's problems. We're not closing the gap. There's not one idea that will save us $1 million and then we don't have to do anything else, right? We're gonna have to continue to look for creative things. We're gonna have to continue down those paths, and there are good ideas that we're going to have to look at. Mark asked some questions on the high school schedule and 8-period day and what 8th period is used for MTSS wise, how the staff, and that's something that needs to be reviewed as well. John and I have discussed that, and it is an opportunity, and that Dr. Dentlinger will need to look at that, and with her administrators as well, to see what can we do to gain efficiencies throughout the district. So all of these things have to happen. It's not a one item and we're done. Unfortunately, we're going to have to continue to have these discussions. And I understand that there are reservations with closing Salem. If we close Salem, we're going to lose more students and we're going to have to cut more. That is a possibility, and it's a reality if you believe that. There is a definite possibility. We can't know how many we're going to lose. We're going to have to react once that happens. But we're also going to lose people if we don't make a decision and we continue to push things down the road. Our staff, the community, we're divided, right? There's not one easy answer. If there was an easy answer, we'd already have it. We'd already act on it. We would be in consensus and we would move forward, but we're not. So we have to look at ourselves, look at our communities, our entire community, look at our staff. And yes, it's a hard decision that we have to make, and we have to make what's best to provide an equitable education for all of our students. And it's not easy, and each student is different. We have twins in the district, and their needs aren't the same. So two kids' needs are the same. But how can we best serve all of our students with as many resources as we can? In my opinion, that involves consolidating. We've been talking about it. I know that we don't want to close buildings. I don't want to close buildings, but we can't efficiently operate. It's no different than a business. If we have duplicate positions that can be absorbed by moving everybody into a more consolidated structure, then we'll get some efficiencies. It's not a fun place to be in, but it is the direction that almost all of the rest of the districts in Iowa are moving towards. That. Nobody's adding more attendance centers. They're taking attendance centers away. I looked at if we closed Lincoln, what does that look like? We could close Lincoln. It would restructure Salem, and that would make nobody happy. It would have to go grade alike. I don't think that's a situation anybody. It is possible. I looked at it, but it's not. It makes both parties unhappy. Both sides. Neither side would be happy with that solution. And so I go back to what's equitable. How can we provide the best education to all of our students equally, no matter where they live? How can we give them the most teachers, the most interventionists, the most whatever they need? How can we do that? We can do that with less buildings. When we have more students in the same place, those resources aren't traveling. They're with our students when they need them. I think that's what we owe our students. That's where I am. It's not a personal decision. It's from a financial piece and from a fiduciary piece and from an equality piece. I believe that's what we need to do for our students. As crappy of a choice as we have, that's where I'm at.
I looked at 16 school districts compared to our population, student population. Of the 16 schools, we're the only school that has 7 buildings. 11 of the school districts have 4 buildings. 5 school districts had 2 buildings. 1 school system had 3 buildings. We're the only school district that has 7 student centers: elementary, middle school, and secondary. I'm not here to close schools either. But I think what we have to do is do the best we possibly can for all of our students. Angie brought up the equity. We're spending more per student in Salem than we're spending at any school in the district. So I think it's a sad thing, but it's happening in school districts throughout the state of Iowa, that they're reducing centers and trying to keep programs that will be possibly fit the most possible number of students.
My biggest concern with closing Salem is what's our plan for managing more students in the remaining elementary buildings. So we have band meeting in a closet. We have tag meeting in a hallway. We have numerous spaces that they're just not good for education. Are we helping that at all? No. If we looked at reducing sections overall and balancing classroom sizes across all the buildings, we're providing a more equitable education for all elementary students, but we're also freeing up currently classroom spaces that could be utilized for some of those other things to provide more for our students. Because if we just close it and move it, it really seems like we're backing ourselves into a corner where the only way out is a bond, and based on the survey results from last year, we're years away from that, of trying to convince people. If we have to look at bringing mobile classrooms in and try to alleviate space constraints, that's going to cost more than what the savings for closing of Salem would be. So that's my biggest concern from a financial standpoint is, are we actually hurting ourselves and our students' budget?
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
On that? So if the closure of Salem was not an active proposal and that wasn't being looked at, per your logic, then everything is acceptable everywhere. You know, we have education spaces that is adequate for everything that you dream up for our district. And where I'm going with that is, what is your plan for space? If you say that keeping Salem open satisfies all of our needs and all of our education space is exactly the way it should be, then that, I suppose, is the answer. But if it doesn't, then what is your answer beyond that?
I don't think that is the correct situation for the future. We don't have enough overall adequate spaces in district buildings. Down the road, we're gonna need to add space in some fashion. So this is not a, we leave Salem open and we never look at anything again. This is, to me, this provides a better learning environment for our students between now and when we have a master plan implemented for the district.
Which students does this provide the best educational experience?
It provides better than what we're offering today, because we have more equitable classroom sizes. So instead of having classrooms of 20 students at Lincoln and 13 students at Salem, you would balance all those out and have 18 in all. So it's better for the teachers because they have a more even environment that they're teaching in. All of the students have a more equal classroom experience because they have the same number of classmates. No, it's not ideal, but we don't have an ideal solution available to us today. To me, this just seems like it provides more for our students than shoving more students into already crowded spaces.
So if we even out our class sizes like you're suggesting, and suddenly we have SPED level 2 students at Salem, we have ELL students at Salem, we have students that need our most, additional resources beyond just classroom instruction. How do you get that support to them now that we've spread them out away from where their resources are now?
If you completely spread everything evenly, then you're taking those resources away. What if you look at, say, Salem could be the ELL site and all ELL goes to one building? So you have all of your ELL resources available for those grade levels. So you could look to kind of not be 100% even in your distribution, but have your distribution spread out across all buildings.
So to you, that looks like equality by segregating one group of student needs to one building.
It's providing more resources to them than what they are provided today. No, it's not a perfectly equitable solution, but is it better than what we have today?
Is that even illegal, or is that even legal? Okay, I have two people shaking their heads no back there, and John trying to say.
I don't know. I don't know. We'd have to check with the department. I mean, what you would be, it would necessitate, I don't know what other word to use, so I'm just going to use it. It would necessitate forcing children to the Salem Attendance Center. It would force, if you're going to even everything out, then you're going to force Mount Pleasant, kids or families that are in the Mount Pleasant boundary, to the Salem Center. And that's what it would necessitate. And then I would also ask the question then, is it guaranteed? Are you guaranteeing then that kids in Salem are going to stay in Salem? Is that how that's going to work?
I can't guarantee anything.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, you would look to keep them as close to the school that they're going to attend as possible. But in providing that distribution, you may have to displace some.
But I don't think that is social justice in education. If you're going to put a certain group in Salem. I don't think that's fair to the families of this school district. And we were elected to represent all of our students and families in our school district. I question whether that is social injustice. I think it is.
On a different side of it, Craig, you're not eliminating any section sizes, correct?
Yes, I would.
You would still eliminate a section.
I would eliminate the same sections that would be eliminated if we were to close Salem.
Okay, so you're still going down.
And the problem I see with it is realistically, I don't see us being able to, nor would we want to, stick one special needs group segregated to one building. So that means that we would even out, you know, you said try to keep everybody closest to their education and attendance center of their choice. So that means we're going to have, you know, a fair mixed number of student with needs, student without. And so in that case, if we have more ELL students and more students with IEPs and level 2 SPED students at the Salem building, we will now need to truck or transport and share resources of the teachers providing those services half the time or part of the time to Salem. Whereas right now, you know, we do that with a portion of the services that we provide, but not many. And so the whole discussion we're having and the whole problem we're needing to solve is reduction in general fund spending. And if we're spreading our most resource demanding services across greater mileage than we are now, we're not achieving the savings in the general fund that we are setting out to attempt to solve.
I guess one thing I got, you say you're forcing kids to Salem, but you're forcing 87 kids from Salem to Mount Pleasant, so what's the difference?
It may come down to just sheer numbers. I look at it as, you know, this discussion isn't picking on Salem specifically.
I understand that.
Well, where I'm going with it, the further part of my statement is that if we were looking, you know, say an in-town building had the fewest amount of students with the highest amount of overhead, we would be talking about that school. So it's, again, financial responsibility and logistics. You're correct. We are talking about forcing students to come in, but to me, it seems like it would be fewer students in the scenario of bringing the Salem students in town than it would be trying to achieve this idea that's being discussed currently.
Any ideas, Kevin? Any thoughts?
I have some thoughts. I may be off on the wall, but that's why we're here as a board. I'm concerned about a couple things here. And I'm gonna throw this out. Not on. Good. Okay, I'm gonna throw this out, and no disrespect to anybody at all. We have a new superintendent coming in, and she's coming into a hot place. She knows she is. She's jumping out of the pan into the fire. That's good, no problem. I think she knows that. I think she needs to be a part of this closure of Salem. We're not talking about something small. We're talking about something that's a major, that's gonna affect. We got half on our side and half against us, no matter what we do, correct?
Major saying that 5% of our student enrollment is major.
The community itself. Let's look at the community. Let's look at the people there. Let's look at what they think about their school. Can we do that, or do we just have to look at dollar bills? And I think if we're looking at just dollar bills, we keep Salem, we go in and make some terrific cuts. We go back to square one. I think we're 104% over for this year in spending. Is that correct? Let's go fix that now. Let's don't fix that in 6 months. Let's fix that now. That's going to take a lot of cuts. So I look at Salem as, do I have any ties to Salem? No, I do not. So I look at that. I'm looking at if our new superintendent comes in, are we going to have an unbiased opinion that we don't have now? Because if we make a decision tonight, which kind of concerns me, I don't think I've ever been to a place where we had a board discussion and a motion in the same night. Not since I've been on here, we've always discussed it on Thursday at site committee and then did it. So I'm looking at that. So is 60 days gonna make a difference? If 60 days makes a difference, we're in bigger trouble than we thought we were.
60 days impacts our staff. We're voting later tonight to approve a contract. Contracts are going to go out. These changes that we keep talking about and discussing impacts what staff is going to do, impacts what families are going to do. You've said that we shouldn't be overspending, so we could tonight, if we want to do it all in one chunk, then maybe we don't wait until the 27-28 school year. If you want to make the change tonight, we can do it for next school year, but that has to be decided tonight. You want to get down to 100% flat, then that decision would have to be made tonight before any contracts went out.
I'm gonna disagree, because I think we are pushing this thing way faster, way harder. If we were so concerned about time, we would have made a decision 6 months ago. Amen. We would have, if that was it. So now we're squeezing it into the next 60 days. So I disagree. I respect your opinion, obviously, but I disagree. I think the new superintendent needs to get her feet wet with Salem closing, and she may come in that first week and say, you know what, yeah, look at the numbers, let's close that thing today. We don't know that, but I think she needs to be involved in the next decisions that we're making. And like I said, no disrespect to Mr. Hendrickson at all, but I think we need to get her involved in this. And like I said, I don't think 60 days is gonna crush us.
So, just a couple questions on your logic here. So, we save this for Dr. Dittlinger, hit her with it right away.
She knows.
Well, I know she knows, but she hasn't had all of the access to all of the data. So I would assume she would want to spend some time to look things over to weigh in on this decision. And if that is the logic that we are using as a board and go with and saying that's our idea, then we are saying someone with, very little, almost zero knowledge of the situation and the data and the numbers has a better chance of finding a grand plan than someone who has been involved with our district and working with the finances and understands the numbers for the last 20 years. Is that what we're safe to assert at this moment?
I know when we hired her, she was going to save us from all of our problems. So, do you really think she knows what's going on? Let's call her tonight and say, hey, you're going to be a part of closing Salem. If it closes, you're going to be a part of keeping it open. I don't think that would, from what I know of her, I don't think that would break her heart. And she'd go, oh, well, I don't know if I want the job now. So
you think she would be ready to move on a decision within the first week of her coming to the job?
I don't know that I said, I'm sorry I threw a date out, but can she have 30 days? Can she have a month to look at it? I mean, seriously?
I'm being serious as well. Yeah, okay, let's give her 90 days, but I would want her working on this diligently day and night. So we would be pushing everything else off, getting her oriented, getting her used to the district, getting her up to speed.
And going back to all the correct data, I don't think we have all the correct data. There are questions that are coming in from people from Salem that I don't think we've answered. And I think if we answer them, if we took a little bit more time and answered those questions and said, this is how we made this decision. I know I was at a meeting 2 weeks ago on a Friday, and we didn't answer a lot of questions, to be honest with you, that were coming to us. And I think if we answer those questions, we might all come together and in one accord. I don't know. I'm not saying that for sure, but I don't see rushing to it. To me, it seems like rushing.
So as a public service that is paid for by tax dollars, who is audited every year, you think that we've been given erroneous data?
I don't think we have answered the questions that they're asking. And
Well,
not necessarily all those questions are based upon state of Iowa data.
It's one thing to say that we haven't answered everybody's questions. It's another thing to assert that we have been given bad data. I don't know where this idea has come from that these numbers are false, and furthermore, what benefit it would serve anyone to provide us with false numbers.
You took me. We were asked questions that are not considered in this data. Those are the questions I think that need to be answered. I'm not saying this data's wrong.
Didn't you say just a
No,
little
you
bit ago?
misheard me if you thought I said that.
Did anyone else hear him say we were given wrong data?
Did I say that? Okay, let me correct myself.
Okay, that's all
Can I
that's
do
good.
that?
Yes, please do.
I'm doing that. Let's go back and say the questions that we were asked were not answered based upon data or based upon any of the information from the state of Iowa. I think it was, is there such thing as answering from the heart and saying the reason we didn't do this is because? Is there anything wrong with that? Is there anything wrong with looking at this thing and saying it's more than a number? Maybe it's a community, maybe it's us, maybe it's all of us together. So if I said there was incorrect data, I apologize to the whole community, the whole state of Iowa. If I'm on YouTube, let's get that corrected here. I did not mean that. That was misunderstood. But I think some of the questions from the people of Salem have not been answered.
What are some of those questions?
We got to go back. I know that they have. I know that they have them because I'm getting emails, and I guess I can bring them to you if you want me to. Yeah, I can bring those questions to you and say, hey, this is what
I
they're
just
asking.
wonder what the questions
Yeah,
are.
no, I can do that. I can get those.
You're not being answered.
Yeah.
Supposedly.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll get those.
And I think we're all aware that sometimes people hear the answer, but they really don't hear it because they have their mind already set on what they think.
A good example, if we close Salem tonight, we got 50% of the people on our side who said we made the right decision. And we got 50% that said you guys didn't have a clue what you're doing. If we do it the other way, we got 50-50.
I don't know where you're getting the 50-50. I think it's very mixed. I respect the people from Salem who have come to meetings with the board, come to meetings with us as individuals, emailed us. I think it's been great. But I question some of the things that they are even saying on social media.
We haven't had a lot of people that were, we had a lot of people that were against closing Salem, but we haven't had a lot of people come to our meetings that were saying, hey, let's just move on the other direction. I've got emails.
So have I, both ways.
But have we had those people attend meetings? And does that matter? I'm asking.
But that is the world today. The people that it directly affects are going to be the ones that are going to speak out more than the people who they think they're not affected by it. But I've heard more in the past few days of people questioning the social injustice, the equitable dollars that are being spent for Salem versus the other buildings in Mount Pleasant Community School District. I was elected, and I think we all were elected to represent all of the people of the Mount Pleasant School District. Their families, the 1,600 plus students that are in our school system. I was elected to look what is the most possible way that those kids can get the best education. Cutting more staff is not helping serve the students of the Mount Pleasant Community Schools. I'm also scared if we're going to cut staff, we're going to cut programs. Programs affect kids. They affect the other almost 1,550 students in the Mount Pleasant Community Schools. Teachers work hard. Next week is the Teacher Appreciation Week. Educators in Mount Pleasant, educators in Iowa, educators in the nation have been critical criticized of not doing a good job. I think I'm the only one that's sitting at this table who has spent any time in the classroom. I respect the teachers of our school system and what they do each and every day. More than 2.5 hours a week or day. They're working 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 hours a day, wearing many different hats, making sure that our kids are mentally prepared, as well as socially prepared, as well as academically prepared. So I think we also have to look at all the students at the Mount Pleasant Community Schools.
We keep talking declining enrollment, and we gotta turn it around to get revenue. And like I said last meeting, if you have a combined plan, somewhat of what Craig said, keep Salem open, because you can draw the open enrollment there and fill Salem, then your cost per student goes down. If you fill it, then it will be equal or less. How can you attract students into the Mount Pleasant School District to turn this declining enrollment around? That's the question, or part of the questions that has to be answered going forward. It's continually going down. How do we stop it?
I agree. We got to find ways to attract.
So when you got a school sitting at the border of 2 counties and can draw from 2 other counties within 5 miles, why would you not look at that as an investment for the future, for revenue for the school district?
I think I was looking at the numbers. 2019, there were 29 students open enrolling to Salem. Today, 2026, it's what, 19?
But in the past 4 or 5 years, what's the talk on the table every year? Close Salem. Take the uncertainty out of it. Show that the investment's there. Give it stability. And I think that'll turn around. Is there a guarantee to it? No.
The talk of the school district over the last 3 to 4 years hasn't been to close Salem every year. We have been talking about what do we do to make our school system, our school district better? How do we provide better education? How do we raise test scores? How do we give staff the training that they need? We have gone down this path, and every time we come back to fewer attendance centers, putting more kids in the same spot to be able to serve them as best we can. Newer facilities, safer facilities, that's what we talk about every year. And every year we talk about closing other buildings because at this juncture, the future that we have talked about and seen is less buildings, someplace to put them. Before we even purchased Central Campus, we were looking at how could we use Maple Leaf? Could we build one elementary? We've been talking about this for a long time. And so then it's construed as we talk about closing Salem every year. We talk about how we can continue to grow and educate our students better. Some of those choices we've made, whether they're popular or not with the majority, we are seeing improved test scores. All of our metrics are increasing. We're doing the right things. Could we do them better, faster? Yes. We also have to have community support on that, and we have not. We're divided. We have to continue to move forward. We haven't, let's close Salem, let's close Salem, let's close Salem. It's when we're talking about what we see the future look like and how we can provide top-notch education for our students, it looks different than it does today. It doesn't look like 4 neighborhood schools. It doesn't look like 3 neighborhood schools. It looks like 1, maybe 2 elementaries where you can give those students the technology, the resources, the small spaces, the flexible spaces. That's what we want for our students. That's why we talk about it every year. That's our job. We want better things for our students. That is our job as a school board. It's how we get there. We get there by closing buildings.
Yes, okay, I'm throwing this out. This is a pretty big deal. Could we go to a community vote and say close Salem or don't close Salem? Everybody in Henry County, you get to vote. Would that be a decision? Could we live with that, or is that too easy, or is that, I mean, I don't even know if that is a possibility.
I'd like to go back, the real question that has been presented to us is how do we save, $1.8 million over the next 2 years? We haven't been proposed with the question, which building do you guys think we ought to close? We see a financial crisis nearing us in 3 years that we would be upside down if we don't do anything. That's what started the conversation that has landed us here tonight. So I think that a vote yes or no to the public on whether or not to close Salem, that's the wrong question to be asking. It's, are you supportive of us right-sizing our financial situation so that we can survive another 5-10 years as a school district? And if you support cutting financials in order to survive down the road, then do you have a better option that saves the same amount of money than what has been proposed by our administration?
Do you think COVID dollars got us where we're at?
No.
That money that we spent from COVID, that didn't make us feel good about ourselves and easy. We got some money, let's go spend it.
No.
No, I'm listening.
Yeah.
I want to hear it.
Our COVID dollars were spent on air conditioning at the high school, majority, correct? And then we hired a few people that we knew we had to cut after a few years. We've cut those positions. We're in this position right now, we're cutting deeper than COVID dollars. COVID dollars were one-time use dollars spent. There was a few positions that were multi-year that we knew we had to be done. We are not in this position now because we took COVID dollars.
So all those positions have been, all those programs and positions that COVID brought have been cut. All of them.
We coded $440,000-ish per year to COVID funds. We cut $440,000 worth of positions for COVID dollars in phase one. So, in my opinion, those allocated COVID dollars, they have been cut. We are on to deeper things at this point.
Because I know, it wasn't a crazy amount, like 6.9.
It was what, $5 million?
Whatever it was.
4 to 5 million or something.
6.9 million was our unspent authorized budget going into when the COVID dollars started. That's how much we had increased to $6.9 million. That's where that figure comes from. That was the unspent budget authority. That's where our unspent budget authority topped out at.
But that's not COVID dollars.
No.
ESSER dollar amounts were that $4 million.
And that's a share given by the federal government that each school district across the nation received, depending on enrollment or whatever other factors. We were not the only ones given ESSER dollars. To me, no, this isn't a fun choice. Angie, you hit it on the head. You spoke well about it. We have been charged with right-sizing our budget, correcting unspent budget authority, getting rid of that 104% spending of our revenue. That's what we're attempting to do. And in order to attract more students, we have to have a financially stable school district. That's what we're attempting to solve right now.
Do we have, for some reason, I came up with a number a couple weeks ago on a Friday, 140 open enrolled students. Is that number close even? Somewhere in that, okay. So, this is gonna sound easy again. how do we, and when I was running, I said, this is a community effort. This isn't just us. If it's just us seven, we better run and find a place to hide. We're a community, so how do we get the community to say, hey, you know, I'm willing, how do we go out of those 140, open enrolled, how do we get 1/4 of those back? Which would be 35 students. Can we do that? Can we go and say, hey, this school is the greatest school in the world. I want my kids to go here. I want your kids to go here. I'm going to make this the greatest thing. How do we do that? And that, once again, that's not all about dollars either. That's all about pride. That's about who we are as a board, that we're making this thing happen. Do we got to go out and spend millions to get people to come here? If we do, we're in trouble. How do we get them to say, you know what? Like Mike said, we love our teachers. How do we get the community to say, I love our teachers. Those are good teachers. Those are people that I want to send my child to learn. Are they perfect? No, but I want them to go there because I know their heart and I know who they are.
I'd like to think that we all do that. We are all in favor of a positive culture here in Mount Pleasant. We are all in favor of a community that's unified and one that's able to be proud of. We are all, and again, I'm speaking for everybody, but I'm just assuming that everybody sitting at this table is all for recruiting students to come here and to advertise and say this is the best school district you can choose.
What are we doing to do that?
We are making sure that it is financially stable and not going to go under in 3 years.
And that's number one.
That's what we're here to do tonight.
But that doesn't make me want to come to this just because you guys are dead free, so I want to come here. What else? I mean, what else?
That
can
is
we
part of
offer?
a master planning process that I am so excited to get to once we plug the hole in the bucket that isn't leaking. In my opinion, what you're talking about and what we've been charged to do this evening are two relatively separate things. We need to fix the financial challenge that is before us before we fall into negative UAB and the state takes us over financially, to get us in a position where we can start thinking of strategies and ways that we can advertise our school district, make it as best as it can be to attract those students. I think that we're all in favor of that, and we plan to do so once we figure out this financial conundrum that is in front of us.
So my question is, if, and the word is if, the vote was to close Salem, what's the plan to house the students? Is there room right now?
You're looking at an increase of what, 2 to 3 students per classroom?
Well, I could pull that up.
It's not ideal, because we want low classroom sizes. But we have the room. Do we still need room for additional? Yes. If we keep Salem open, do we still need additional room for what we have here in town? Yes. I don't think it doesn't solve our problem for space. It doesn't necessarily hurt the problem for space.
I just don't want to see close Salem and then 6 months down the road say, okay, now we need to build or bring in modular classrooms or something and spend more money than what it's costing to keep Salem open.
I could make that argument today that we need more spaces and we need to bring in classrooms or build more classrooms with the situation that we're in. So to say that Salem caused that, I think is a false. To bring those kids in here would be a false. I feel that we need additional space right now. So
If it matters, just to be clear, just so everything is clear, you guys, you mentioned a couple of times, you mentioned modular classrooms. Those would not be a general fund item. That can be, those can be financed using SAVE or PEPAL dollars. Just wanted to make that clear.
I got an email today, just so you can help me, but on that scale where we say we're in the upper, we're commendable, where it's.
School performance profile data?
Yeah, and it says that we're where we should be. I got an email today that said the only reason that we are there is because Salem tests so high.
Dr. Butler, last month we went through that, and overall our district is an aggregate. So it's not a weighted average. Is that an accurate statement?
correct.
So all of our students equally play into our overall district rating.
Okay, so their rating has nothing.
Every student plays into our weighting. One building doesn't. Every student counts. So it's our students collectively that make up our school, our district performance profile.
So to put it differently, the students that we had tested in 4 buildings, the end result is the exact same if they were all in one building.
Yeah, it's the aggregate of all of those. This is combined, 27, 28 if you combined. And it's just using the numbers that we currently have going from preschool to kindergarten next year. So I just pushed those up another year into 27, 28. These are blank. This is blank because we don't know what preschool is going to be that year. We don't know what kindergarten is going to be. We have an idea now because we had kindergarten roundup. I would say that kindergarten class in 27, 28 is going to be somewhere around 95 to 100 students. So if you take our current students, and obviously there's going to be fluctuation in and out, there always is, but if you take our current students and move them to 27, 28, our first grade class would have 94 students with 6 sections. You're talking about 15 and 16 kids in a section. If you did that with 5 sections, you're still only talking about 18, 19 students. And then it just goes down from there. I mean, I didn't mean that like that. The data, you just read the data down from there. 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. This is what, if you had 6 sections, this is what the size would be. If you have 5 sections, this is what the size would be.
To put it in perspective, the current 5th grade classes have anywhere from 19 to 21 students currently in town. So those class sizes wouldn't be any bigger than the class sizes that are in Van Allen today. They fluctuate throughout the year. You gain students, you lose students. Currently, I know there are some classrooms that have 18 or 19 and some classrooms that have 21. And it also there shows that as we move forward and as we, on a year-to-year basis, that those in a classroom, in a grade, in a cohort like 1st grade, we probably are going to need five sections and not 6 sections. If we're going to balance our resources and we're going to have to keep to look at what can keep 6 sections and what needs to go to 5 sections. No different than we've been doing now. Why we don't have 7 sections of everything now. We have 7 sections, we have 6 sections. We have to, the district and ourselves we have to hold the district accountable for keeping those numbers in line with what we can fund based on the state funding.
And speaking of state funding, I hope that this whole process and everything that's led us up to tonight has helped create more advocacy for public education amongst the community. That is a huge reason why we are talking about what we are talking about, is the number of years that the majority party has underfunded public education has landed us here. Some people have called for us, well, why didn't we join the motion or the movement to demand 5% from the state? In theory, we did. I mean, we advocate legislatively for public education every year, very hard. The call for that right now, just to address that talking point specifically, is a little bit too little too late because the governor has already signed the SSA for this year into law. But moving forward, the next time we have the ability to vote for representatives, I hope, again, as an advocacy tool, that people remember the difficulties that public education is facing across the entire state, and hopefully elect or hold our representatives accountable for higher funding in public education. Because this, if the SSA continues the way it is and falls below the inflation rate, this problem is not going away, and in most cases, it's just going to get worse.
Mark, I'd go back to you for a second. You said stopping the rhetoric about closing Salem, making it guaranteed. And I would just come back to that in talking about our elementaries, I myself would not make a guarantee for any building for any length of time that we're going to keep them open as we're looking at master plans. So to me, I could not make a guarantee if the vote was to keep Salem open that we're going to guarantee it open for the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever that is. So.
With the master plan discussion, so we talked last month, I think it was, about not wanting to make any decisions on plans forward with Old Main and other buildings at Central Campus without a master plan. This really falls in the same category. Without a master plan, yet we're making a decision that alters the district.
I'll repeat myself that tonight we are trying to solve the need to cut $1.8 million over 2 years to fix UAB from going negative. If selling off or closing, or however you want to say, those 2 buildings achieved that financial savings for us, I guarantee that we would be looking at it. I want to try to reiterate, separating this conversation from, we are just set out to close a building. That is not what we're set out to do. We are set out to find the least impactful for the least amount of students way to cut the amount of dollars that we need to cut to right size our UAB.
If we were to sell, this is a question, if we were to sell Iowa Wesleyan, could that money be used to put into,
No.
to cut our deficit?
No.
So it can't be used at all? Okay, that's correct.
Different buckets of money. It was purchased with non-general fund dollars, so if you sell the building, whatever fund it was used to purchase it goes back into that fund.
Does anybody here know for 100% that how we vote tonight, how you vote is the correct answer? I don't know that I do. I don't know that I can say that. I can say I know what I think I'm going to do, but is that 6 months out? Did we do the right thing? Is everybody 100% guaranteed?
No, nothing is ever 100% guaranteed. And
We're never going to get
I
there.
don't think you're going to get that. Yeah. You're going to make a decision and you're going to move forward with the decision that was made.
And we have the ability to pivot. If things change rapidly in 6 months, we have the ability to rediscuss plans. We are trying to act on the data that's been given us and look for any alternative that saves us the same amount of money, and nothing has been presented that provides a lower impact to the least amount of students in our school district to save the amount of money that we need to save. If 6 months down the road, suddenly, I don't know what to use as an example, a pot of gold falls from the sky. I don't know. Suddenly, we have this pot of gold. We have the ability to look at what that changes. That's
About
the
this.
ability of our board.
How about we have a year and you want to really invest heavy in bringing kids here, and we see an influx in enrollment, right? And we're bursting at the seams. The trend isn't down, but we're bursting. Then I guess you have a year kind of to reevaluate it, but I just don't see that happening. I would move forward with the data that's been presented. to us, and as grim as it may be, keep going that way, but at the same time, you are promoting Mount Pleasant and you want it to grow. So whatever we can do to make that happen.
I think this is where collaboration comes into play with the city council, with the board of supervisors, and the school board. Now, we're one of the counties that has 4 school districts in the county. But I think it'd be a roundtable discussion, collaboration, in what ways that we can. And I'm not sure what way that would be, but there's gotta be some possible way. This allows some things to take place, opportunities to take place, and it's up to us to make sure we take advantage positively in those opportunities.
Mark, any other possible alternatives or ideas?
I threw out last month about moving the 8th grade to the high school, 5th grade to the middle school. Be able to close the center here in town by combining that one. You know, if we got 8th period of teachers not teaching, is there a possibility of doing it? I mean, you know, is there room at the high school? I don't know.
John, can you speak to that on just a general basis? What a grade level, secondary grade requires?
You're gonna add, I don't know the size of the 8th grade class, but again, let's just say that we're talking about anywhere from 110 to 125 students. You've got to have, you know, the core. We don't have open classrooms at the high school for a full grade level, and I don't know that we would be certified, or that our teachers would be certified for that level of instruction. I think there's some efficiencies that could be gained if you're talking about master planning and you decided that you were going to bring 2 grade levels out here, 7th, 8th grade, 8th grade, in new construction. I think there are efficiencies to be had by doing that. When you look at areas like, excuse me, like the cafeteria, I think you wouldn't have to build a cafeteria, you wouldn't have to build a kitchen. You could build I just think there's efficiencies to be gained, but to move a grade level out here and put the 8th grade in the general population with the high school, I don't think you could do it, nor do I think it would be developmentally appropriate. That's just my opinion.
Where would the cost be in that plan?
You'd close the building here in town.
Can you walk me through that?
You move everybody up a grade, right? And so you got preschool and kindergarten at one building. So you'd have that. You could move into
moved 8th up here, you
Yep.
moved 5 up to middle school. And now you still have pre-K through 4. 2.
So then 2 would go to Van Allen, kindergarten would go to Lincoln, and then preschool would be identified.
But every school, we would close one building, but every school would need to add an addition to it, because we don't currently have room at any school for a whole level, correct?
In that theory, so second grade replaces 5th. So the only one that is increasing the number of students added would be the high school. Because the 8th grade comes here, and then 5th grade backfills in their space. And 2nd grade backfills in Van Allen. And then kindergarten backfills in Lincoln. So it's just preschool, but wherever they end up would be, that's what the ones left out of that.
So you're adding the high school and another, one other, so you're doing an addition at 2 sites.
Yeah. Unless I misunderstood that.
There are there are shared resources, educational resources, shared programming from the 7th and 8th grade together. All of that programming is different than high school programming, so then you either add resources or you increase travel time and you get less teacher time, more travel time, so you're spreading your resources thinner between, which is, if you look at EBU, when we looked at initially that 7th and 8th kind of go together, if you're going to make a move with one, usually to keep those efficiencies and those programmings, you would move them together. You can separate 5th, 6th, those are the kind of the intermediate, the 7, 8 kind of go together. It's no different than what Fort Madison did when they brought 7 and 8 as a pair to their secondary site.
Question to you, Aaron. Can I pick on you? So if we had, we've heard several people say, we know that Salem will eventually close. I think I did. You guys did. I heard it several times. You know, maybe not now, but it probably will eventually close. If we gave them a few years to get a plan together, and we all think that maybe we gave them plenty of time. I don't know that we did. If we told them that we are going to close you in the year of 28, 29, no questions, you guys are getting shut down. Just so they know, to give them a plan. Would something like that even be realistic?
Where would the cost savings that need to happen this year come from?
I know, yeah, we're gonna have to work that. We're gonna have to find some different cuts somewhere else.
Because
that eventually
yeah, I'm not against your first part of your plan.
yeah.
Again, the direction of the decision that we are speaking of had nothing to do with aimed at closing an attendance center. We are trying to save enough money to prevent the UAB from going negative in 3 years. I know I sound like a broken record, but I want the focus to remain on where the focus needs to be placed. So if we found an alternative that found those cost savings and kept that timeline and kept us from dipping below where we need to be on our UAB, our solvency ratio, inching that much closer to being taken over by the SBRC, then we could say, yeah.
I'm willing to put my time in. If we have to have a meeting every day for the next 6 months, yeah, I'm willing. Let's go see. I just remember that I asked Mr. Hendrickson when we made all these cuts, I said, Mr. Hendrickson, if we asked you to go back to the drawing board and find a few more cuts, could you do it? And he goes, yeah, maybe.
But we can all, sorry, I didn't interrupt.
yeah, so are there cuts to be made? Yeah, I think we can go, but
That impacts more students, that negatively impacts the education that we can provide all of our students.
if we close Salem, just using that as an example, we're still gonna have to go and make some more cuts. And if you think Salem is our answer, we're putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg, we're gonna have to shut it down, then we're gonna have to go, we have to go find more cuts. So, can we find it?
And that-
Can we salvage everything out of this? I don't know. Closing the one school, closing the school in town, and moving the grades around, how much is that gonna save us? Where's that savings?
I don't think that's gonna save us anything, because again, we are having to transport more resources a greater distance, and splitting it up and eating into the time that they have with the students. I feel like we've covered that. I mean, you can find cuts anywhere you want to. Again, the purpose of this plan was to have the least amount of impact on the least amount of students. We charged the administration with coming up with that plan, and they presented it to us and said, we believe, it's not John believes, it's not Aaron Williamson believes, it's the district's administration, after going back and working on it and meeting together and going over everything that they work with, came back and said, we believe this impacts the fewest amount of students. And that's what we are asked to consider. How do you save the money? And I would hope that we all want to achieve how do you negatively impact the least amount of students. Cuts anywhere are going to have their implications. They're going to have a downside. And I feel like we've all done a good job of expressing how we don't want to be doing this. This isn't a choice of ours. Angie said it best earlier when she said if this was an easy decision, we would have made it already. It isn't. We have deliberated this, and we have individually worked very, very hard to ensure that we're not missing something. That there's no other way that is a magic way out of this that doesn't impact any students, that doesn't involve, cutting any jobs. I wish that solution were there. And it wasn't for a lack of trying. It wasn't a lack for us working day and night on this to see if there's other situations. We've met with people, we've listened to constituents, we've gone over plans, we've gone over data, we've asked John several questions, we've gone over this meeting and meeting and meeting and meeting. And a better alternative has yet to surface, in my opinion. Just to reiterate, it's been said in many ways tonight, but it bears repeating. The work doesn't end here tonight. This isn't a vote and we're magically out of the weeds. I mean, you've even said we have to make more cuts further from here. We know that. It's very unfortunate. We don't know where they're going to come from. Eventually, they're going to come from places that do impact more students. Hopefully not. Hopefully something happens in the meantime. But the trends that we've seen, the amount of funding that the state seems to be willing to give public education, it doesn't shine a bright light that after tonight, if we make a vote of some kind to make this cut, that we aren't going to have to make more in the future. We need to be accepting of that. And that's where, the work of the new superintendent comes in as well. It doesn't end tonight, unfortunately. So my charge to everybody who has put work into this and who is paying attention to this, watching online, maybe hasn't come to a meeting to express their support for this decision. Everyone, we are asking as a board to work on the unity of this community, to band together. I understand that if a building closes, that it does impact a community. I'm well aware of that, and I hate that. And none of us are choosing this option in favor of that. And so I know it might seem ridiculous for me to call for unity if, in fact, the vote tonight leads to the closure of a building that will impact a community. But that's the only way we survive out of this. And I, as a board member, and I think the rest of you, will continue to do everything that we can to enrich every student in the community and every student in the district to achieve without limits as best as we can. And I hope that the collaboration continues. We've had some great meetings, we've had some great input, and I don't want to disregard any of that. You know, just because some of the plans that were presented to us, even the ones at last Friday's meeting, just because they're not being factored in tonight because it didn't work with the grand plan after looking at it, doesn't mean that they were bad ideas. Doesn't mean that I'm telling them, never ask me for a meeting again. I thoroughly enjoyed working with these two individuals, you know, bouncing ideas back and forth, talking master planning. I want to see that continue. My fear is that any decision that we make that involves these cuts is going to hinder that. It's going to sever relationships and continue this divisiveness. Obviously don't want that. I don't want to see it, but realistically, the writing's on the wall, but that's most likely going to happen with some people, and I apologize for that. It's not by personal choice, but my plea to everyone moving forward is that we can continue to collaborate, continue to come up with ideas that hopefully in the future saves a cut from here or there, half and half. We are always open to ideas, we are always open to input, and I want to stress we're always open to educating ideas that come to us that may not work and be able to show why it doesn't, because we should be the subject matter experts on education finance within this state. That's our job, to pay attention to that stuff, learn about it. We hold seminars, we go to training. So we extend that education and we help people in the community learn why decisions have to be made the way they are, why funding comes the way it does. It's complicated and it's messy and it's not always great. But I tell you what, we have a district full of leaders that understand this stuff better than, I would make the charge better than most districts around us. We have great leaders, and it's an opportunity for us as a board to support them and show them that we trust them and say, you guys are the experts in this. You hold degrees, you have proven that you are able to provide our students amazing education, amazing support. We see that. Our performance profile scores are going up. Every school board meeting, we have a presentation on how our district is striving, how our district is improving. We are making decisions that hopefully, and it's showing that we are, making decisions that continue to grow our district both in scores and hopefully in numbers. But we have to work with what we're dealt with as far as population, other private and Christian and charter schools competing for our students, funding that just isn't there. All of these things, we just have to do our best with what's in front of us. And so I really hope, just to come back to everything, that moving forward, whatever happens tonight, if a vote gets made one way or the other, that this passion and this advocacy doesn't go away, and that we can harness it into positive energy and positive and constructive work that we can all do together, whether that's creation of more committees that include community members, or just continuing to receive emails. The input shouldn't stop here. We're never going to turn people away and say, all right, we're done receiving ideas. I want to keep the doors of communication open, and I hope that we start having great collaboration between business leaders in town, parents who have great ideas, PTAs that get involved and maybe help funding school supplies. All of these ideas for long-term growth and long-term sustainability require us to work together, and I just hope that no matter what happens tonight, that remains and continues to prosper.
Does anybody else have anything to add?
I just have one thing I'd like to bring up. So I was going through the breakdown by building that Jessica provided. So going through that, so we have 7 schools and homeschool included in that, and then estimate of $1.1 million for transportation. That brings us to $19.19 million of our $25.91 million budget for the year. So 26% of our spending does not occur in a school building. So the 19.1 million covers all the teachers, paras, everyone that works in the school buildings. It covers transportation to get them to the buildings. But that's only 3 out of every $4 the district spends. It seems like not enough. It seems like we're spending too much outside of the school buildings.
So when we have transportation costs and maintenance costs and administrative costs and curriculum, there are curriculum, professional development, that's all coded to a 000, which is divided amongst every school. It's not shown in here per building, because it's coded to a 000, which is district-wide
Okay.
expense.
That makes me feel bad.
Okay.
So just to recap, we didn't give you a microphone. Some of the gap that Craig is questioning is curriculum, a variety of things. It's not all, but some things get spread out among all students, not coded to a specific building, the things that we have to pay. Not 100%, but a large portion of where your gap,
Okay.
what you were questioning. Any other points of discussion? Moving on to item B, is the consideration to close Salem Elementary in the fall of 2027.
I will make a motion to close Salem in the fall of 2027.
Is there a second?
I will second.
Is there any other discussion?
I can make a motion now, and I am going to make a motion to table this motion until July 1st.
Is there a second for Kevin's motion?
Second.
Point of information.
Yes.
If there's a motion on the floor, can another motion come? I believe not.
What we have to do is it has to die for lack of a second, the motion that was,
So we have an active motion on the table. Your motion can't be heard until we act on the first motion because there was a second motion.
My motion could change if we vote my motion.
Your motion is not currently on the table because we have a second and we're in discussion on the motion that's on the table that has been moved and seconded, correct? So we would have to,
take a roll call vote.
on the motion that's been seconded before we hear any other, the discussion of the motion can't include another motion.
Yeah.
So there's one motion on the table. The motion is to close Salem in the fall of 2027 with a second. We're in discussion now. So no other motions are on the table. So Kevin, your discussion is that you would prefer us not to move forward and you believe that we should table it. That's the discussion on the table at this point.
Yeah, so my discussion is, my proposal is that we wait until July 1st to do this vote. So that'd be my discussion.
What does July 1st get us, you think, Kevin?
New superintendent.
That's her first day.
I'm just saying that, I know that's her first day. So, I mean, I could say June 30th too, doesn't matter.
Well, that'd be before she's here.
Yeah,
Right.
so that's John's last day, her first day. I'm just picking a day, let's go, I mean, I could go on July 15th, I could go August 1st, I could go, yeah, I'm just saying, until she takes office or whatever. Yeah, that's all my motion.
With hopes of what would change between now and then.
An unbiased opinion, maybe. Maybe not so much emotion on the table. I don't know. I'm saying what would be wrong with giving that a whirl. verifying that, so that was my only question there.
You just want to, you want to hear her opinion on the situation to be given to the board before we make whatever decision we make.
Yeah, I want to have her footprint in whatever we do. Because we're gonna live with it, she's gonna live with it. And so sometimes when you gotta live with something, you got a little skin in the game, you make a different decision than you would without that, so. To me.
How much time would you realistically expect her to ask for to go over data and catch herself up on before she's at a position where she feels like she's able to make a recommendation?
And you can't, I don't know that you put a time limit on that, but I would say that she said that she's a community-minded person, so could she have 30 days, 60 days? I don't know what would be fair to her. I guess I don't know that answer to that question.
In order to table this, I challenge that we would have to come up with that timeline.
Okay,
I mean, in the interest of pushing this vote,
okay, August 1st, add August 1st to that.
August 10th, that's our board meeting.
Okay,
That
yeah.
month, is that?
Yeah, no, perfect. Yeah, I don't have a timeline, I just think that we need a timeline there and say, hey, yeah, you're doing, yeah, that would be great. Let's table that to August 10th, or next board meeting then in August.
So you're, in your discussion, you called out taking a motion out of it. The facts and data aren't going to change, the numbers aren't going to change between now and then. So from my perspective, I'm not making an emotional decision. And I'm not sure, in response to that piece, that it is based on the data that we've been given and the impact that and how I logically see it. So we're tasked as board members to make these kind of decisions as well. We were elected by the public to do this and make decisions for the board. And we're acting off of a recommendation from the district. So I don't necessarily see where the emotions coming in that would change.
Mike had asked me what questions, I will present them. I thought if we had that time period to present those questions, that I will go get them, because I know they're there. Can I ask them tonight? I can't, but I could get them. I don't know that would be wrong, just saying, hey, giving the community one more chance to air their opinion to us, so.
so were these questions part of emails that the rest of us didn't receive?
No, absolutely not, but they
And
were.
why didn't you bring those to the meeting
Well, I
tonight?
didn't know, John didn't answered every question, I did not either. I will get them. If he's got time to get them, I need time to get them, and I will get them.
You truly believe that within those questions, there's a viable alternative that's gonna find us the cost savings, that's gonna keep this building open?
I think there's an element of answer and trust with the board in those questions being answered, right or wrong.
I'm just curious, you keep, are you talking about the Friday meeting that we have had?
Well,
That you attended?
yeah, and you answered most of those questions in that Friday meeting. But there are some other questions. You don't want me to bring them to you, I won't. I'll let you guys decide that. I've had a second on my motion. I don't know if you'll reconsider the second or the 10th or not.
It only matters if Josh.
There's only one active
So,
motion on the table.
so if we push this back to his motion to August 10th, that'd give the administration 3 months to look at other alternatives to other cuts. Or are we actively looking at other measures as we keep going forward?
It's my understanding that we have asked the administration alternatives. They've presented us with another one that involved cutting IJAG, cutting CTE programs, remind me of the other elements to it. But we have asked for alternatives to be presented, and the administration has provided another one. I feel that we have also asked them a significant number of clarifying questions that they've come back with information given us to. I'm just curious if you all are seeing something that has legs enough that within 3 months it'll get worked out that you truly think will be the savior. I feel like it needed to have been presented to us prior to the motion being made for the current proposal.
But if these other things are being looked at, why haven't they been presented?
What other things?
Well, you just mentioned, you said they'd come up with alternative plans to this.
Their recommendation was the one that their first recommendation. If that recommendation, if we do not choose to go that direction, then those other things will be presented and we'll have to vote on those.
So I would say that based on staff movement, resignations, in phase one, I would say we will realize just over $1 million in reductions. I would say it's probably between $1 million and 1.1. That just based on some of the staff movement and making decisions on section sizes, which would include kindergarten at Salem Elementary for next year. So then you're still looking for the recommendation. The goal was $1.8 million over a 2-year period. That was what we came up with. It's also what IFSIS and Piper Sandler recommended as well. And so $1.8 million over the 2-year period. So you're still looking for $700,000 or so dollars in a phase 2 going into fiscal year 28. And what I had said, because you had asked, what's that going to look like? Well, you're going to have to look at programming. You're going to have to look at programming. You're going to have to look at, I was IJAG programming, it was CTE programming, among other staffing reductions. Again, the issue is here. It's right here. This is what we're dealing with. Is the enrollment issue, and so I don't know. Does that turn around in a year? That's not what we've experienced, but could it? I suppose it could. But you're looking at, and that's your new superintendent would. You'd have to be looking at program reductions. You're talking about bringing her in, you'd have to look at programming reductions. If it's not the closure of Salem Elementary and additional staffing reductions to get to that $700,000+.
Is there any other discussion? Is there any changes to the motion on the table?
No.
Jessica, roll call.
Flint,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Hurd,
No.
Overberg,
No.
Schrader,
No.
Maher,
Yes.
Hampton,
Yes.
The next item on our agenda is a negotiations discussion, which is exempt from the open meeting law. When we come out of this discussion, we have one more action item to consider approving the 26-27 master contract agreement.